Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. President Draupadi Murmu flies a Rafale, becomes the first Indian head of state to take a sortie in the fighter aircraft. India and China agree to continue to use existing mechanisms to resolve any ground issues along the border to maintain stability. Cyclone Montha weakens after landfall in India's Andhra Pradesh. Hurricane Melissa hits Cuba after causing damage in Jamaica. And US President Trump says Gaza ceasefire holds after Israel kills 26 people in response to the killing of its soldier. All right, first up, US President Donald Trump on Wednesday says that nothing would jeopardize the Gaza ceasefire. He also said that Israel should hit back if its soldiers are killed. The statement came after Israeli planes launched strikes in Gaza on Tuesday. Now, this is the latest test of the fragile deal brokered by President Trump. The Israeli military said Wednesday it had reinstated the Gaza ceasefire after carrying out a series of strikes on dozens of militant targets since the previous day. It further said that its strikes hit 30 Hamas commanders in Gaza. An Israeli strike hit a residential building near Shifa Hospital, the largest operational hospital in northern Gaza. 2 people were wounded in an attack on a tent in Zaveda in the central Gaza Strip as well. A statement from Israel said Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered powerful strikes on Gaza. Defense Minister Israel Katz accused Hamas of carrying out an attack against Israeli forces in an area of the enclave that is under Israeli control. Both sides have accused each other of violating the ceasefire. The issue flared up when Prime Minister Netanyahu said that Hamas had violated the ceasefire by turning over some wrong remains in a process of returning the bodies of hostages to Israel. Israeli forensics said that the remains handed over on Monday belonged to Ofer Zarfati, an Israeli killed during Hamas's 7th October 2023 attacks. Zarfati's remains had already been partially retrieved by Israeli troops during the conflict.
The remains of a deceased hostage from Gaza, and following the identification process, it was determined the partial remains belong to Ofer Zarfati, a 27-year-old who was murdered in Hamas captivity after being kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival. The IDF rescued his body from Gaza in November of 2023, where he was later buried in Israel by his family. In March of 2024, additional remains of Ophir were returned to Israel for burial.
Under the ceasefire terms, Hamas released all living hostages in return for nearly 2,000 Palestinian convicts and wartime detainees, while Israel pulled back its troops and halted its offensive. The US-backed ceasefire agreement went into effect on 10th October, halting 2 years of conflict triggered by deadly Hamas-led attacks on Israel on the 7th of October in 2023. Right, joining us is Professor Rajan Kumar from the School of International Studies at the Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. Professor Kumar, welcome to DD India. Now, to begin with, Trump says that a US-backed ceasefire in Gaza is not at risk. Now, this after Israel kills scores of people in response to the killing of one Israeli soldier. Do you share his assessment?
Thank you, Ramesh, for having me here.
Welcome.
Let me tell you that that Trump has the way he has been dealing with this issue of ceasefire. I think he's probably mishandling the issue, and there is some kind of he's overemphasizing on the issue of ceasefire. without making an attempt, a serious attempt, I mean, to resolve the issue. He is not addressing the real issues of Palestine and Gaza. The real issue is about Israel has to stop firing. If Israel fires, the ceasefire cannot hold. Israel is firing. This is not the first time that has happened. Earlier also, we also had program especially exactly on this issue. Earlier also Israel attacked. Now continuously Israel is attacking, but Trump is under no position to control Netanyahu's behavior. It seems that even if he controls Netanyahu, the other right-wing forces, which have massive influence in the Israeli army, etc., they may not be under Netanyahu's control also. That's a possibility. Recently, the right-wing coalition of Israel, they passed a resolution in the Knesset, the parliament of Israel, where they said that the sovereignty of Israel extends over West Bank and Gaza. And Netanyahu could not stop that bill. And it will go through several processes before it actually Israel starts taking action. But that shows how Netanyahu is getting weaker politically, domestically. And now, but at the same time, Netanyahu cannot be seen as a weak prime minister in Israel. So he has to show to the domestic constituency that he is taking action. And that's exactly the reason you see the term, if you analyze the term that he said, he will take the hardest possible action in his order he has said against Gaza, etc. So that shows that ceasefire is not holding, clearly it's not holding. And there are pressures from different parties. Yes, because Trump claimed it as one of the biggest achievements of his foreign policy. So he has to say that ceasefire is holding. But if you see the statements of even Vice President, this etc., so there are contradictory and conflicting messages which are coming even from the United States administration. Yeah.
Professor Kumar, I hear you, but Trump says Israel had the right to act in the manner it did. Surely that's a reasonable position to take?
I think that every state has a right to act against terrorists, etc. Because Hamas, that was part of the agreement also.
Right.
The ceasefire plan that that happened between U.S., Israel, and the other parties. Even in that, Israel had the right to strike if there is a terrorist strike. But it's not, But this is you are striking the same set of people with whom you had negotiations. Hamas was the key party of the key party. I mean, represented by other people, but Hamas was the key party of this conflict. But now Hamas is being attacked. It's not the terrorists from some other country, Lebanon or Iran, etc., that they are being attacked. So essentially, what it means that with this kind of approach, ceasefire is unlikely to hold. But yes, every state has a right to strike. That's that cannot be denied. Yeah.
Fair enough. We've discussed about Israel, Professor. Let's spare a moment for the Hamas now. What do we know about Hamas? Does it still retain the capability to hurt Israel, or do you think it has completely been defanged by Israel's Operation Iron Swords?
I think there are two sides of it. One is the objective reality. If you see in terms of the objective capacity of Hamas, it has been obliterated. His network has been destroyed. Most of the leaders have been killed. But if you see Hamas as an ideological force, so that cannot be destroyed. That's a challenge. And the fact that even when in a small territory, Israel has been fighting so long, and it has not managed to destroy Hamas completely, and Hamas is attacking. This attack happened because Israel says that Hamas attacked the Israeli army, and after that there was retaliation. So if Hamas retains that capacity, that means there's some kind of support which is there. And also let me tell you that if you see the statements which are coming from other sides, say for instance what Turkey has said, what Saudi Arabia, etc., has said, they have clearly said that Israel is not respecting the ceasefire. So which means that Hamas is not only in the area of what you call it Gaza and West Bank. Hamas is also has its network in other places, and it has a huge ideological support from a number of countries. The sad reality is that US is trying to establish what you call ceasefire through Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, Egypt, etc. It has not taken into account one of the key parties of the conflict, Iran. And that's exactly the reason I believe that for a long term, it's unlikely that the ceasefire will hold.
Now, talking about the Hamas in detail, Professor Kumar, Trump has said the following about Hamas, and I quote him here. He says, if they are not good, they are going to be terminated, unquote. Now, do we know whether Hamas has agreed to disarm just yet?
No, not yet. There is no commitment coming from the direct Hamas representative saying that
Okay.
is. Yeah, that was part of the process, demilitarization. This was the second step after extending hostages, a ceasefire for some time.
Hmm.
Then second stage, it was that it will demilitarize, surrender, etc. But in my view, that is very unlikely to happen.
Okay.
Because Hamas, that organization knows, and the people associated with that organization, they know that if they surrender, they'll have the fate of maybe lifetime imprisonment, or maybe they'll be targeted at some point of time because they don't trust Israel at all. So demilitarization is the real challenge, which was part of the next process and the
Hmm.
reconstruction, etc. But I think even today, I don't see that demilitarization is happening the way the things are proceeding. And the next stage of ceasefire, which was about to begin, that can also be stalled and stopped now.
Hmm.
Because ceasefire, the way Israel has been attacking, and not only that, if you follow the domestic politics of Israel, the right-wing coalition are targeting Netanyahu, and his political position is very weak,
Hmm.
and it's all because there are cases, corruption charges, etc. So he also has a fear that he has to continue as a ruler. If he doesn't continue, then
Indeed.
he might come under pressure and he might be sent to jail also. And as a consequence, he has to take a very tough action against Hamas. Otherwise, he'll be seen as a prime minister who could not stop Hamas and who could not destroy Hamas. So
Right.
these are the complications and realities of Gaza and Israel. And that's why ceasefire will not hold. I think otherwise, or this kind of breaking of the ceasefire will continue, in my opinion.
Right. Point taken, Professor. Now, looking ahead, it has been reported that an international force to stabilize Gaza could include troops from Pakistan, besides Indonesia and Azerbaijan. Would you welcome it? Would New Delhi be okay with it?
Absolutely not. Why New Delhi? Even United States should not be okay with it. US has to. US would be the key player in any country where where this is command control and the entire system is. If you have the US Army and that is controlled by the US, have no second views on that. That would be completely controlled by US. But having Pakistan against because Pakistan is not a neutral party. Let me tell you, on the issue of Israel and Hamas, Gaza. Pakistan has clearly said that that it doesn't recognize Israel. It has said that it doesn't. It supports this what you call Hamas operations again. So Pakistan is not a neutral party, and especially from the Indian perspective, especially when US and India they have close ties. They have geopolitical convergence of interest on the issue of China and other issues. In that context, it doesn't send a very strong message or good message to India, where US is trying to include army from Pakistan and even Azerbaijan, which have taken a stand against India,
Right.
even on the issue of terrorism. When we had terrorist attack in Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan didn't
Indeed.
accept that it was a terrorist attack at all. So in that kind of situation, I don't think that's a good move by United States. This will alienate India, and US has to understand at some point of time.
I'm afraid that's all we have time for. I will have to leave it at that. Professor Kumar, thank you for joining us and sharing your perspectives with our viewers in India and around the world. Thank you. Appreciate it. Some other news we're tracking here on DD India News are US President Trump is in South Korea for the last leg of his Asia tour, with high-stakes meetings expected with Chinese President Xi Jinping and South Korea's Lee Jae-myung. President Trump delivered a keynote speech at the APEC CEO's luncheon. He will also participate in a US APEC leaders working dinner. The US president said that a trade deal with South Korea would be finalized very soon. He touted his economic policies as key to bringing investments back into the US.
On this trip alone, I've signed groundbreaking agreements with Malaysia, Cambodia, Japan. Our deal with the Republic of Korea will be finalized very soon. And not only are the tariffs strengthening our alliances, they're also bringing peace to the world. On Sunday in Malaysia, we signed the Kuala Lumpur Peace Accords, ending forever the war between Cambodia and Thailand. Thank you.
The two allies announced a deal in August under which South Korea would avoid the worst of the tariffs by agreeing to pump $350 billion worth of new investments into the US. Meanwhile, North Korea test-launched sea-to-surface cruise missiles off its western coast before President Trump began his visit to South Korea. According to the Korean Central News Agency, the missiles were fired vertically from the Yellow Sea and flew for more than 2 hours. The tests were overseen not by its supreme leader Kim Jong-un, but by a senior military official. Now, China has said that its President Xi Jinping and US President Trump will have in-depth talks on major issues on Thursday as expectations grew for the high-stakes talks in Busan, South Korea. President Trump has said that he expected their first face-to-face meeting of his second term to result in the US lowering tariffs imposed on China in relation to fentanyl. Beijing confirmed in meeting on the sidelines of a summit of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, which is taking place in the city of Gyeongju. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Climate inaction is claiming millions of lives every year, warns a new report. And US Space Agency NASA's X-59 jet completes a historic supersonic test.
This week on Defense Dynamics, India's aerospace ambitions soar higher as we decode the HTT-40 trainer aircraft. A closer look at the military combat parachute system, India's breakthrough in airborne innovation. We analyze the armed UAV Archer NG, a major stride in indigenous drone warfare, plus a strategic perspective on the Pak-Afghan conflict and its regional fallout. Catch the sharpest analysis of power, posture and technology this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Hurricane Melissa makes landfall on the southern coast of eastern Cuba with a sustained wind speed of 120 miles per hour on Wednesday as it weakened to a Category 3 storm. According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, Melissa was located about 95 kilometers west-southwest of Guantanamo in Cuba. Residents were seen making preparations ahead of the landfall. The hurricane is expected to generate a storm surge of up to 12 feet in the region and drop up to 20 inches of rain in parts of eastern Cuba. The hurricane wreaked unprecedented damage in Jamaica a day earlier, hitting as a Category 5 storm, the strongest ever cyclone to hit the Caribbean nation. After hitting Cuba, the hurricane will move northeast towards the Bahamas and Bermuda. Meanwhile, in India, widespread rainfall and speedy winds are expected across Andhra Pradesh despite the weakening of Cyclone Montha. According to the Weather Department, heavy to moderate rainfall is expected in various districts of Andhra Pradesh, while gusty winds can be expected throughout the affected coast. Officials have advised people to remain indoors and promptly inform authorities in case of an emergency. In conversation with DD India, Amravati Meteorological Center scientist Dr. Karuna Sagar said the system will likely weaken into a deep depression within the next 6 hours, bringing heavy rains and strong winds to several coastal districts. Take a listen.
Under its influence, we are expecting today also the lot of rainfall activity and also strong winds we are expecting. Particularly, we are giving the red warning for the Nellore, Prakasham, Nandyal, Palnadu, Guntur and NTR districts. And the adjacent districts like Boyapatla, Krishna, West Godavari, Elur districts, we are giving orange warning with a heavy to very heavy rainfall activity. And we are expecting heavy to very heavy rainfall activity in Kurnool, Anantapur, Vayasar, Kadapa and Rayalaseema also. The remaining districts, especially in the north of the northern coastal districts, we are expecting one or two places heavy rainfall, and completely southern districts like Tirupati, Annamaya, Chittoor, Satyasai districts also we are expecting heavy rainfall activity. By evening, it will further weaken and it will become the winds will become almost like 45 to 55, gusting to 65.
Now, climate change is ravaging the health of people, and policy failures are leading to millions of avoidable deaths every year. The Lancet Countdown has come up with its major annual study tracking the health impacts of climate change. It says opportunities for a just climate transition were still on the table but remained largely untapped.
Climate change is ravaging human health worldwide, with millions of avoidable deaths each year. The Lancet Countdown report calls for urgent action ahead of the COP30 climate talks in Brazil, including investments in zero-carbon energy and climate-resilient infrastructure. Rising temperatures and toxic fumes from wildfires are taking a deadly toll. The report put figures on some of the most deadly consequences. 546,000 people died each year between 2012 and 2021 because of exposure to heat, a massive increase on figures from the 1990s, and toxic fumes from wildfires killed a record 154,000 last year. Global temperatures are now hitting record highs, surpassing 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, amplifying heat waves, droughts, and extreme weather. Despite the climate crisis, governments spent nearly $1 trillion subsidizing fossil fuels last year. It also criticizes some world leaders and corporations for backsliding on climate commitments, while praising local communities for leadership efforts.
Despite the fact that we're seeing such a falling engagement from political leaders, what we're also seeing is that sometimes it is the local governments that are still taking the lead, and the ones that are most in contact with local communities that are holding the efforts for climate action to be taken forward. And we're seeing things like extreme weather events becoming more frequent and more deadly. We have new data this year showing that we had more than 150,000 deaths related to wildfire exposure per year, wildfire smoke exposure per year. So the death toll of climate change is rapidly growing, and that is particularly concerning.
Experts say reversing harmful policies and investing in sustainable solutions is crucial to protect human health and survival. Bureau Report, DD India.
And joining us is K. Venkataramana, Fellow and Area Convener, Center for Climate Modeling at the Energy and Resources Institute, New Delhi. Mr. Venkataramana, welcome to DD India News Hub. Now, we've seen those reports about Cyclone Montha and Hurricane Melissa. Are these two phenomena manifestations of climate change?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome.
So this is exactly the climate change impact. So many studies, even though over India as well as globally, people are giving the reports showing that the not only rainfall and cyclone events, all types of climate events are going to increase in the future due to the increase in the temperatures. So heat waves, floodings, droughts, storms, wildfire, all these types of extremes are going to increase in the future due to the climate change. So what will be happen if the temperature is rises? If every 1 degree rise in the temperature, the atmospheric water vapor availability will increase up to 6 to 7%. And some places it will go up to 18 to 20% also. That lead to directly to extreme rainfalls. And many studies over Bay of Bengal and as well as the Arabian Sea. Previously, the Arabian Sea having the less number of cyclones, but Ministry of Earth and Studies clearly shows that over the Bay of Bengal as well as the Arabian Sea also shows the clear increasing trend in the storms. And also it shows the intensity of the storms are going to increase.
And frequency also?
Frequency is not much variable.
Okay.
Frequency will be the same, but intensity, it will damages more. The intensity will going to increase in the future time periods.
Right.
These are the studies. This is the not only for India. This is the case for the global, many places.
Mr. Venkataramana, we also showed our viewers a report on the latest Lancet Countdown report.
Yeah.
What are your impressions about the report, which warns that climate inaction is claiming millions of lives every year?
Yes. So Last year, we clearly saw higher temperatures. Globally, it reaches more than 1.5 degree. Even in India, the many places it reached to 50 degrees. Some places, and the frequency and intensity of the heat waves are increasing. It is directly impacting the health of the human as well as the many things like consumption of the electricity and many load in the grids, everything. It is impacting the heat waves, so the immediate action is required to reduce to take some action to reduce the temperatures. So it's a very good platform to discuss about the in the COP maybe in the next month. So it is mandatory to take some immediate action on the
Right.
climate change. Otherwise, we are having a lot of damages in
Indeed.
the economy.
And since you referred to COP, Mr. Venkatramana, what are your expectations from COP30, which will be held in Brazil? In other words, what can be done to help small island states or developing nations? For instance, could we see COP30 agree to give a boost to investments in zero carbon energy or climate resilient infrastructure?
Yeah, very good point. Actually, instead of bigger countries, islands having the lot of impact, and they are facing lot of issues with the climate change because of the sea level rise and the extremes of the cyclones. These are the major damaging their economy. So the in the COP, people are planning this from many years for the giving the net zero to reduce the emissions, but to give the some money, subsidized money to the countries to reduce the emissions, maybe people are negotiating on this, hoping this COP may give some better fruitful results
Right.
on this.
Last couple of quick questions, Mr. Venkatramana. For instance, talking about India from an Indian perspective, what can you tell our viewers about India's track record insofar as climate action is concerned?
So many studies, it is clearly showing India is adopting for the green energy, mostly in the wind and solar. We are increasing and we are trying to reducing the emissions, and not only India, many countries also. In the last year, if we see the average greenhouse gas emissions for the year is around 40 tons. Last year, the major contributor is from China. Last year, it shows 1% decline in the greenhouse gas emissions, and many countries also moving towards renewables, especially Europe and US, and India also adapting this. So hoping maybe in the very near future we will reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, and it is immediate action is required to take on this. Otherwise, there is a lot of damages to the
Right.
economy as well as the many human deaths for this climate change. And I want to highlight one more thing.
Sure.
Every year we are seeing the extreme flooding events, rainfall events over Himalayans because of this climate change.
Right.
Maybe this will also will continue in the future. Many studies
All right.
showing. Yeah.
Mr. Venkatramana, thank you for your time and sharing
Thank you
your
very much.
perspective
Thank
with
you.
our viewers. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
In some other news, the U.S. space agency NASA's X-59 supersonic jet completed its first test flight on Tuesday, marking a major milestone in aviation. The experimental aircraft, developed with Lockheed Martin, aims to break the sound barrier quietly, reducing the traditional sonic boom to a soft sonic thump. Measuring nearly 100 feet long, the single-engine jet climbed smoothly after takeoff and headed towards Edwards Air Force Base, accompanied by a NASA chase plane. Built to reach Mach 1.4 at 55,000 feet, the X-59's design could pave the way for quiet, faster commercial flights over populated areas. NASA says that this initial flight tested basic systems and airworthiness, launching a new era of low-noise supersonic travel. Diplomatic hopes between Pakistan and Afghanistan suffered a major setback on Wednesday after truce talks in Istanbul, Turkey, ended without what Pakistan called a workable solution. Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif warned the Taliban could be completely obliterated if provoked, accusing militant groups of using Afghan territory to strike across the border. Islamabad described the talks' failure as a serious blow to regional stability, and security forces on both sides remain on heightened alert as the fallout continues to unfold. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan attends a felicitation program at Tirupur in Tamil Nadu. And Cyprus's foreign minister begins India visit.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Arey, it fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. President Draupadi Murmu flies a Rafale, becomes the first Indian head of state to take a sortie in the fighter aircraft. India and China agree to continue to use existing mechanisms to resolve any ground issues along the border to maintain stability. Cyclone Montha weakens after landfall in India's Andhra Pradesh. Hurricane Melissa hits Cuba after causing damage in Jamaica. And US President Trump says Gaza ceasefire holds after Israel kills 26 people in response to the killing of its soldier. President Draupadi Murmu on Wednesday took a sortie in a Rafale fighter jet at the Indian Air Force station at Ambala in Haryana. This was the first such sortie by an Indian president in a Rafale jet. It was President Murmu's second flight in a combat aircraft following her 2023 sortie in a Sukhoi 30 MKI at the Tezpur Air Force Station in Assam. President Murmu was also formally given a Guard of Honor prior to her Rafale sortie. The Rafale jets were formally inducted into the Indian Air Force in September 2020 at Ambala. They played a key role in Operation Sindoor, a targeted response by India to the 22nd April dastardly attack in Pahalgam. President Draupadi Murmu, who is also the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, flew on board the Rafale fighter jet in a sortie from the Ambala Air Force Base. DD India's Nandita Dagar shares more about the Rafale fighter jets from Ambala.
The Supreme Commander of our armed forces flew in the Rafale fighter jet from the frontline Air Force base of Ambala. The Rafales were deployed in Operation Sindoor and they pulverized the Pakistani terrorist camps. They cratered the Pakistani Air Force runways and they bombed the F-16s and the UAVs parked there. Just 6 months after the start of Operation Sindoor, the Prime Minister embarking on the INS Vikrant in the Arabian Sea and the President flying the Rafale are huge statements of intent. They are a stern warning to the terrorist state of Pakistan and a reassurance to our countrymen. With camera persons Yogesh and Giri in Ambala, this is Nandita Dagar for DD India.
And joining me is my colleague Vishal Barrister. Vishal, talk to us a bit more about the sortie and its significance.
Well, certainly a very good afternoon to you, Ramesh. Definitely the sortie today is very, very important and historic as well, as you inform our viewers that President Draupadi Murmu is the first president and also a woman president to take 2 fighter aircrafts in the sky. First it was Sukhoi Mark 1 and then the Rafales. It is strategically placed, the Ambala Air Base, and quite important because as Nanita reported, and we all know that Rafales played a very crucial role in Operation Sindoor, in precise attack on the terrorist camps across the border in Pakistan, and we are talking about the terror camps. So definitely today's flight has a long message, not only for the countrymen, where she would be inspiring the girl child and also the female officers in the armed forces, but also a strong message for the enemy across the border. Ramesh?
Indeed. Also, Vishal, given the Rafale's track record, are more Rafales likely to be inducted into the Indian Air Force?
Well, Rafales will be inducted in the Indian Armed Forces. We already have 36 in the Indian Air Force, and 5 were inducted in the Golden Arrow Squadron that was also in Ambala at the Ambala Air Base, and 26 are also to be inducted in the Indian Navy, that is Rafale's Marine variant, and 22 are single-seater and 4 are double-seaters. That is to be inducted by 2030. The Indian Air Force has also asked for the procurement of 114 multi-role fighter jets, and the Dassault company, which is manufacturing Rafales, is the front runner. But the deal is yet to be finalized. They are going to be the under the Make in India campaign. They would be made in India. So Rafales are the front runners, but there are other fighter jets also. There are media reports that Sukhoi 57 is also on the radar, as I asked the air chief in one of the press conferences. So definitely we need more and more fighter aircrafts, but as of now 26 in the Indian Navy by 2030.
All right, we'll leave it there, Vishal, as he was reporting there on President Murmu's historic maiden visit and sortie in a Rafale fighter jet from the Ambala Air Force Station. We'll leave it there for now. Right, in other news, Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan attended a felicitation program in Tirupur district of Tamil Nadu on Wednesday. The Vice President is on a 3-day visit to the South Indian state. Earlier on Tuesday, he attended a series of programs in Coimbatore, which included a visit to an industrial site in the city and a felicitation where he was also presented with a Guard of Honor. The Vice President also visited the Town Hall Corporation building and paid floral tributes at the statue of Mahatma Gandhi. Under the theme of Uniting Oceans, One Maritime Vision, India Maritime Week 2025 is underway in Mumbai from 27th to the 31st of October. Hosted by the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, the IMW 2025 is said to be the world's largest maritime gathering, bringing together key stakeholders from across the global maritime ecosystem. Prime Minister Modi will address the Leaders' Conclave and the Global Maritime CEO Forum during the event. DD India's Shyama Mishra reports from Mumbai.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Mumbai on Wednesday to address the Maritime Leaders' Conclave and chair the Global Maritime CEO Forum at the India Maritime Week 2025. The Global Maritime CEO Forum will bring together CEOs of global maritime companies, major investors, policymakers, innovators, and international partners to deliberate on the future of the global maritime ecosystem. The Netherlands Minister of Infrastructure and Water Management, Robert Tiemann, who will be part of the CEO Forum, spoke to DD India about strengthening bilateral cooperation between India and the Netherlands in maritime and water management.
Memorandum of understanding, different types of topics are on there. For example, the training of the maritime professionals, but also table topics like the water quality, topics like the maritime agenda to manufacture vessels.
The Prime Minister's presence reaffirms his vision for a progressive maritime transformation aligned with the Maritime Amritkal Vision 2047, with over 350 international speakers. India Maritime Week 2025 is said to be a hub of industry expertise and strategic dialogue. The event will witness the signing of more than 600 Memorandum of Understanding, amounting to investment commitments exceeding 10 lakh crore rupees. The 5-day event brings together over 1 lakh participants from 85 countries, including 500 exhibitors, 350 speakers, and 12 concurrent conferences and exhibitions. India Maritime Week 2025 showcases the country's maritime resurgence and its vision to transform the nation into a global maritime leader by 2047.
India Maritime Week brings together policy, community, technology and business under one roof, shaping blue economy's future. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's participation underscores his commitment to the vision of Maritime Amritkal Vision 2047. With camera person Kapil Maske, this is Shama Mishra for ED India, Mumbai.
And Prime Minister Modi held a telephonic conversation with his Japanese counterpart Takaichi Sanai. The Prime Minister said on X, and I quote him here, had a warm conversation with Takaichi Sanai, Prime Minister of Japan, congratulated her on assuming office and discussed our shared vision for advancing the India-Japan Special Strategic and Global Partnership with focus on economic security, defense cooperation and talent mobility. We agree that stronger India-Japan ties are vital for global peace, stability and prosperity, unquote. The 23rd round of India-China Corps Commander level meeting was held at Chushul-Moldo border meeting point on 25th October. This was the first meeting of the general level mechanism in the western sector since the 24th round of special representatives talks were held on 19th August. The talks were held in a friendly and cordial atmosphere. The two sides noted the progress since the 22nd round of Corps Commander level meeting held in October of 2024. They share the view that peace and tranquility has been maintained in India-China border areas. Both sides agreed to continue to use existing mechanisms to resolve any ground issues along the border to maintain stability. Cyprus's Foreign Minister Konstantinos Kombos arrived in New Delhi on his first official visit to India. His visit provides an opportunity to review progress in implementation of India-Cyprus Action Plan 2025-2029 and discuss the comprehensive partnership. He is scheduled to meet India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar on Thursday. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has concluded his visit to Brussels, describing it as filled with intense but very productive engagements with Marcos Sefcovic, EU Commissioner for Trade and Economic Security, on advancing a comprehensive India-EU free trade agreement. He said that the talks have significantly reduced outstanding issues and created a framework that can deliver a win-win outcome for both economies.
I believe the ongoing India-EU FTA negotiations has given us an opportunity to really create the framework which will help us in the long run bring our two economies closer together, integrate them into a relationship which will be a win-win for European Union and for India. The intense engagements that we've had have significantly reduced the outstanding issues between EU and India.
Commending the negotiating teams for their efforts, Minister Goyal said that he looks forward to welcoming Sefcovic and the EU team again soon to work towards concluding the dialogue. Minister Goyal's Brussels visit pushes India-EU FTA talks forward, narrowing gaps and advancing a balanced trade pact focused on market access, innovation, investment and shared economic growth. In the blink of an eye, a stroke or brain attack can change everything: speech, memory and movement. But the power to prevent a stroke lies in our own hands. 29th October is observed as World Stroke Day, and DD India's Preeti Kaur explores the dangers of brain stroke and how to prevent it.
A stroke is a medical emergency that happens when something prevents the brain from getting enough blood flow. A blocked blood vessel or bleeding in your brain can cause strokes. At times, strokes are also referred to as cerebrovascular accidents or brain attacks. Ischemic strokes usually happen because a blood clot blocks a blood vessel connected to your brain, Hemorrhagic strokes happen when a blood vessel in your brain breaks or tears. One of the most effective tools for stroke awareness is the FAST method, face drooping or paralysis in the face. Also, one side of the mouth may droop when trying to smile. Numbness or weakness in arms and difficulty in raising the arm. Trouble speaking and understanding what others are saying. A person having a stroke may be confused, slur words, or may not be able to understand speech. Acting quickly when these signs appear can reduce brain damage and save lives. World Stroke Day is observed every year on 29th of October. The theme this year, Every Minute Counts, emphasizes on the critical importance of acting fast to recognize stroke symptoms and get immediate medical treatment. To prevent a stroke, one should focus on managing medical conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes and adopt a healthier lifestyle, exercise regularly, maintain a healthy weight, quit smoking, and limit the intake of alcohol. Having a stroke can be a sudden, life-changing event. But remember, recovery is hard work, but it is worth it. Preeti Kaur, DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian table tennis players Diya Chitale and Manu Shah script history. More on that after the break. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Now, Germany used to be a country of meat eaters, but vegetarian and vegan lifestyles are growing in the country and elsewhere in the EU too. Now, the European Commission is looking into these developments, trying to change some rules. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and he joins us from Berlin for more. Lars, what's going on?
Thanks for having me. Well, brace yourself for a story that could only come out of Brussels, the most bureaucratic place in the world. So here's the problem. For years now, as people all over the EU have switched to healthier lifestyles, many eating less meat and replacing it with plant-based protein, food companies have reacted and developed a host of new products. There's soya schnitzel or soy escalope. There is tofu wurst, well, a tofu sausage. But now the EU has decided that traditionally a sausage is a meat product. So if it's not meat, it can't be sold as a sausage. So even after years of consumers happily buying and eating veggie sausages, the EU says there is no such thing and that food companies have to come up with a new name for the product. The reason? To protect consumers. After all, the EU says you don't want someone accidentally buying a vegetarian product when in fact they wanted a meat product.
Now, sounds like the EU has put a lot of effort in new rules, but how big was that problem really?
There was no problem. That's the most annoying aspect of this story. The Commission, and this is not the first time, has solved a problem that actually wasn't. And it's even kind of obvious. If the packaging says vegan soy sausage, no halfway intelligent person would think of it as a meat product. It clearly says it. However, there might be a problem now. Companies have invested lots of money in new products. Some have even changed their entire business model to adapt to more healthy consumer choices. And they have been promoting a healthier lifestyle and getting people used to certain new products. Now they're afraid that being forced to change all the product names or the product categories would lead to real confusion amongst consumers. Retailers agree, and they're saying they fear that such changes would cost businesses billions in revenue.
So why is the EU even doing this? What's the upside?
Great question. There is no real upside, at least not for the general population. The idea to change the rules came from the meat lobby, and they are pushing for these changes. Their reason is clear. They have lost some of their business, all those people who would eat mostly meat and have been switching to vegetarian or vegan choices. And they are hoping to maybe make their competitors' lives a bit harder. However, that's not going to really work for them. They won't be winning their old customers back simply by changing product names. The real problem they need addressed is that with changing consumer habits, the agricultural sector has to change. And for that, it really needs support out of Brussels. It needs reformed subsidies. Farmers need help, maybe switching from certain forms of agriculture, like livestock, to others. They need help in working in more environmentally friendly ways or develop climate change-resistant crops. So definitely the EU has to help farmers. But the idea of doing it this way now, by changing names and being laughed at by consumers, that is not going to work.
All right, we'll leave there. Lars, thank you. Lars Halter reporting there from Berlin. And now to some sports news. Diya Chitale and Manu Shah scripted history as they became the first ever Indian table tennis players to qualify for the prestigious World Table Tennis Finals. The Indian duo have earned their spot at the WTT Finals scheduled in Hong Kong, China from 10th to 14th December through their rankings. The finals mark the culmination of the global WTT series featuring only the top-ranked players from a year. Only 16 in men's and women's singles and 8 mixed doubles pairs make the cut for the high-stake events. Their consistent performance through the year, including a historic silver medal at the WTT Star Contender Brazil, earned them the milestone achievement. Yashitha added another gold medal to India's tally after winning the girls' freestyle 61 kg wrestling title at the Asian Youth Games in Bahrain. She beat Kazakhstan's Zaidar Muka to clinch India's 4th gold in Manama City. This was the 2nd gold by an individual after weightlifter Preeti Smitha Boy. The other 2 gold medals were won by men's and women's kabaddi teams. India also claimed 2 bronze medals in the mixed doubles table tennis event and boxing. India's overall tally has risen to 27, including 4 golds, 10 silvers and 13 bronzes. To mark 100 days before the start of the 2026 Winter Games, members of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic squads took part in a ceremony to turn on the lights at the Empire State Building in New York City. Nearly 300 U.S. athletes will travel to the host country, Italy, as it puts greater emphasis on winter sport. Although the U.S. team frequently tops the Summer Olympics medal table, it's only done so once at the Winter Games in 1932. The Games run from 6th to 22nd February. Many of the athletes were enthusiastic about their participation in the Games.
It's really exciting. There's a lot of hype, I think, and you feel it around the U.S. athletes, and it's really, really exciting. Like, I really think, like, and as you mentioned, 100 days out, it's like the countdown has begun. It is, it's so special also to all get together in one spot to celebrate this moment, knowing that hopefully the next time we're all together will be in Milan.
U.S. skiing racer Lindsey Vonn aims to become the oldest woman to win a medal at the 2026 Winter Games after she made an age-defying comeback. The 41-year-old announced retirement in 2019 but rejoined the U.S. ski team a year ago after knee surgery allowed her to hit the slopes without pain in a remarkable recovery. The 82 times World Cup winner returned to the World Cup circuit in December 2024, finishing 14th in the Super G in Switzerland. But critics soon followed as she crashed out in Cortina and failed to finish at Garmisch-Partenkirchen weeks later. Vonn now aims to clinch a medal in alpine skiing.
For so long, I've just been in this state of pain management. And now I'm living my life to the fullest, and it feels so amazing. And it doesn't matter what happens in these Olympics because my life has changed forever. I'm not the person that's in pain anymore. I'm the person that's living my best life every single day.
To tennis now, world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz was stunned in his opening match at the Paris Masters as he went down to Cameron Norrie of the UK 4-6, 6-3, 6-4. Alcaraz claimed the opening set but failed to maintain momentum while Norrie steadily grew in confidence. The world number 31 capitalized on his opponent's errors and served 2 break points in the 7th game of the final set and held his nerve to clinch the match. 6-time Grand Slam champion Alcaraz has never won the Paris Masters in 5 attempts and now risks losing the number 1 spot in the rankings should Yannick Sinner win the tournament in the French capital. Before we wrap the show in this edition of DD India News Hour, we leave you with these stunning visuals, a drone's eye view of thousands of pelicans gathering together as they are fed at a reservoir in Israel. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.